generally what I do is basically more on the soft part of the family business, meaning conflict management, succession planning, how to get the whole family to align together. Those are the key things that I generally work with. So I have other colleagues that works on obviously tax structure, how do you work on your will and things like that. Those are basically my partners, and obviously other associate company that we work with that probably will help you to do that. So my job is not basically to help you in terms of who you're going to pass your money to. I think basically my job is basically to get a family to align together. I think first thing, we are probably all in this webinar together today because most of us are in a family business. So what is a family business? I would like this webinar to be as interactive as possible. So there's a chat channel. Please do throw me your question along the way, and I'll try to answer them as much as I can during the 1 hour session that we have with you. Okay, so I think one of the key things that I probably want to do first is basically to share in terms to understand what you guys are. I just want to do a quick poll now in terms of understanding what are the respective participants that are in here today. So without further ado, Chris has shared with you the first poll question that I'd like to have. So please take a minute or so to basically look through the question and tick on so that I will know who are the demographic of the families or the participant that I'm working with today. Okay, are we getting most of the answer already? Chris, you have the compilation?
Yes, I do have. We do actually have like nearly over 80% that are actually of family business here. And then about 6% is actually a family business and they are a non-family employee. And the rest are actually, no, this is not a family business.
Okay, for those, basically those who choose that this is not a family business, maybe there's other webinar that you should attend now. Instead of spending your time here, basically, I'm focusing a lot on family business. So first thing first, I'd like to look at is, what is an Asian family business? I think one of the key things, everybody look at this picture will tend to smile. Why? Because you tend to have a recollection in terms of how our parents tend to treat us, especially with Asian family business. I've been working in the region across Asia Pacific. Most of the time I realized that in Asian family business, the matriarch and the patriarchs tends to be what these pictures tends to describe. Older generation tends to still wants to guide the direction. The older generation to a certain extent still very much treated the second or the third generation as young children who doesn't know anything and still trying to run the business. So I hope this sort of reside with most of you as we discuss a lot more later in the chat. Just to give you a little bit of context in terms of family business in Asia, it's a very interesting thing. You realize that across Asia Pacific, especially Southeast Asia, you realize that most of the listed company on their respective stock exchange are family business. So there's nothing ashamed to be a family business. As a matter of fact, you look at countries like Hong Kong, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, they have a really high percentage of family business dominating the respective stock exchange. So this is to also tell you that the good thing about family business that most of them tends to be very big and most of them tends to be very successful over the years. So what is a family business? I think one of the key things that before we start talking about what are the issues faced by family business, one of the things I would like to share with you is basically how do you actually define your family business? Which will bring me to my second poll. So there is two set of answer I'd like you to think about it. When you look at your family business, is it a family in business or a business for the family? And I'll repeat again. When I look at the definition of family business, I would like you guys to be able to define in your head in terms of how you will look at your family business. Is it a family in business or a business for the family? I think this is the second poll I would like to get you guys to be able to share with me. So Chris, over to you. So you can see just two definitions there. How will you define your family business? And I'll explain to you what it means for each of them. And there's no right or wrong answer in this aspect, so not to worry. Nothing wrong with being family in business and nothing wrong with business for the family. And interestingly, I would like to also hear from some of my friends, Ron, basically, I know you're just setting up your business now. I'd like to see how you will define this business of yours in time to come. Same thing with the rest of the guys. Caden, obviously, Caden, you're in, obviously you're taking Marcus. You guys are already taking from the as a second generation. I would like to see, and I'd like to hear from you guys later on in terms of your definition on your family business. Okay, I think most of you probably already have the answer. Chris, you have something for me?
Yes, Roger, here you go.
Okay, lovely, lovely. Wow, okay. That is surprising. Okay, I'll share with you why I think it's surprising. Family in business, and 42% says that is business for the family. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, for those who have chose to define your family business as family in business, a typical characteristic of such definition means that you will need to have every able family members to be in the business, and the key position of the business has to be run by families. Nothing wrong with that, but if that is how you define your family business, okay? Second one, business for the family. The definition and the characteristic were defined as this is just purely a wealth generating unit for the family. It means that today you can be in furniture. 10 years later, you could be doing IT. 20 years later, you could be doing cyber security. Doesn't matter. What it was is basically there are wealth generating units or businesses that are basically generating wealth for the families. That is the second characteristic of the definition. So I see there's a balance of 58, 42% in terms of, so quite a half-half situation. Normally when I do this, I would like to hear a lot from you guys, but obviously this is a bit harder because you are doing a webinar. But I think one of the key things that I want to share with you is that there's no right or wrong way of defining your business, but you need to have a back on your mind to understand that is your current business model going to be the same many generations down the road? For those who choose family in business, meaning you are looking at eventually the people to continue the same business that you're running, or eventually create a new business, but family members need to run it. In the second instance, you're looking at people that are basically looking at potentially getting professional to come in and run the business, and the family who stay away. So I give you an example. For example, your Marriott Hotel Group, typically these are family business, but they're no longer run by the family themselves. They're getting professional to come in and run, and they have diverse business. But then you look at company like Kum Kee, look at company in like Macau, Stanley Ho in Macau. These are the people that basically continue to run the business the way to be running, but with the input from their family own members. So these are probably the clear definition. So you need to have that definition, because those definitions will clearly define the strategy that you will take for the family as we move along. So one of the things you probably heard a lot on in our family business is in typically Chinese, they always say 富不过三代, meaning wealth does not generate with beyond 3 generations. I don't know whether it's true. I mean, I've seen many family business that I'm working with in the region, they are going into their 4th generation now. But if you look at this proverb or this myth, it's across the world. It's not just the Chinese. If you look at what the Mexican has said, look at what the Brazilian has quoted, and look at what the American has been describing, to a certain extent, it's true. A lot of time, you realize that most of the business doesn't go beyond 3 generations for a specific purpose. And one of the things, especially in Asia, you probably realize that most of us are probably exposed to the idea of shares holding. And most of us are probably obsessed with the idea of shareholding, meaning a 51% will have a louder voice than the 49%. That's always been the case in this part of the world. Then perhaps my challenge to you is, have you ever wondered how businesses in Ireland, how businesses in Italy, I mean, I've been to Australia and I've seen a family that is almost close to 25 generation. Why? How do they do that? How did they able to ensure that the business can sustain over 25 generations? Those are the things that this is what we do. And those are the things that you realize that there's been a huge focus over the years. I don't know whether you're familiar with the fact that even in Singapore today, you look at Singapore Management University, they have a family business institute set up to look at family business. Why? Because it is an important aspect of the economy in many years to come. If you have studied overseas before, say in Canada, in Australia, in US, in UK, you probably realize that family business is one of the key things. And there are many tax benefits being a family business in those respective countries. So those are the things that I want you to bear in mind. Being a family business, there are many pros, of course, that I will share with you also many cons. Okay, this is just an example. These are some of the oldest family business in the world. These are some of the oldest family business in the world. You look at the oldest hotel, the oldest restaurant. They've been around for thousands of years, interestingly. And typically, you realize that most of them are found in Japan. Very interestingly, they're all found in Japan. And you probably realize that out of the list, you probably see a lot of them are from Japan, Germany, Ireland, Austria. Those are very, very unique old countries that basically are able to sustain. And how do they continue to do that? Because they have a structure. And that's what we want to share about today. I think one of the key things you need to look at for a family business is a typical good family business are able to have these 2 attributes, resilience and adaptation. Just like the 2 pictures that I put down there, the 2 respective animals who are able to adapt to the environment they are living in, who are very resilient to the harsh environmental factor around them. Okay, so a good typical family business will be able to have these 2 good characteristics that will last them for years to come. Example of good family business, I just want to share with you in the region. Kum Kee Family, I think this is one of the classic cases that a lot of people have been talking about. You go to all the management school around the world, and when they talk about family business, Kum Kee seems to be one of the key case study that people raise. Interestingly, I have the opportunity to see their family business, family constitution. Family constitution is basically, for those that are not familiar with this term, family constitution is basically similar to your law of the family. Basically, they set the rules, the boundary of what the family business is all about, and how do each and every one of the family members within the families come into the work with one another, talk to one another, fight with one another, conflict management with one another, and most importantly, how to come about and lead and eventually to let go. Those are the things that clearly define what we call a family constitution. It is a very new thing in Singapore. Even in Vietnam, I think it's a very new thing, but we've been doing quite a fair bit of this type of role in places like Indonesia. We've been doing a few in Philippines, in Thai. Those countries, those families has been actively looking at what we call a family constitution. So it's not something new. It's been something that's very, it's a prudent way to bring your family forward. So Kum Kee is one of those families they talk about. And interestingly, if you have the preview to look at their constitution, you probably realize that they have a constitution, and one of the rules in the constitution states that the family members are not allowed to divorce if they want to have access to the wealth. Very interesting. Why do the forefather says that? Because when you read through the thing, you realize the forefather wants them to recognize, they want the descendants to be able to clearly identify who they want to marry, and not just marry somebody they love today and forget tomorrow. They want to make sure that they make a choice, an informed choice, before they get themselves into a marriage, because to them, part of their values is longevity, part of their values is love. They want to make sure that they're able to keep the family together as long as possible. Another family, Stanley Ho, I think most of you are familiar. Obviously, now they're probably in a slightly mess because the old man has gone now. But Stanley Ho, when he's still alive and he's still able, he has built a gambling empire throughout the region. So you look at the way he runs his family, to a certain extent, it's all run by family members. These are a typical case of what we call family in business, the first choice that you talk about. And obviously, the Salim Group, for those from Indonesia, you're probably familiar. Salim Group is one of the biggest family in Indonesia. That basically runs a huge business empire. And again, it's passed on to the second and the third generation now. They're running it. Again, a typical family in business. The Hinduja Brothers from Mumbai, basically for those that are familiar with India scene, these are huge business giant in the respective field. So from technology to Wi-Fi to various business that they have across the world. So these are brothers that are working together. So question has always been, is family business rare in this part of the world? All I can tell you is it's not rare. If you look at the royal families from UK, they are a family business, right? Obviously now, I think recent times that we're having a little bit of family dispute with the second son, but you look at it, it is indeed a family business. And you look at Trump, it is a family business to a certain extent. The Trump Corporation is run by the families, from the daughters to the son-in-laws to the daughter-in-laws. These are the people that are running the respective business. Now, obviously, father is running the country. So I think the key things I want to share with you is family business is not rare. Family business is very common across the world. So how do you define a good family business? For those that doesn't read Chinese, these words means family or family foundation. 家族, basically your whole family, your extended family. One of the key things that we realize over the years working with families, a good family tends to have what we call a long-term thinking. A listed company look at a quarter over 3 months. Every 3 months, you need to look at it and say, what's our financial performance? How are we doing? How are we different? How we going to compete? But a typical long-term family business look at a quarter as 15, 25 years. They're not in the rush to look at 3 months. They're not so myopic to say that this is what they need to do. They want to look at a long-term perspective in terms of their family. So one of the key things that you look at, you realize that over the years, there are many listed companies that's owned by family decided to delist. One of the reasons is because they realize that they don't want to face the pressure of the quarterly reporting, the half-yearly reporting, the yearly reporting. They don't want to answer to the shareholders at the end of the day because they realize that this is still very much a family run. We want to keep our values in terms of how we do the business. So we want to keep it to what we are, who we are, and making sure that the descendants in generation in time to come continue to work with the same value they are looking at. So one of the things that they look at is long-term thinking. And a typical good family business normally will have what we call a financial prudence. They are very careful in terms of financial. I'm not saying they're stingy, they are just careful. Okay? They will make the right investment and only when it's done uninformed and wise choice. This is how most of the big families are able to survive for generations to come. Financial prudence. Third, you will realize that a lot of family business, to a certain extent, they are very emotionally connected to the owner. You look at Toyota. Toyota is a family business, and the MD today is still Oishi Toyoda-san is still very much a Toyota value man. I happened to saw him in Congress speaking to the Congress in US I think probably 3-4 years ago, when Toyota was having a problem with their brakes in US market. And the first thing he says that this brand is so closely associated with my family. I'm not going to let it down. We have no intention to run away from any responsibility. We want to let you know that my family name is associated with the car brand. We want to make sure that every car that we produce is safe for every consumer across the world. They are very heavily connected. So one of the key things you realize that a good family business normally are able to evoke the kind of emotional connection to their own brand. Also, they have what we call a deeply rooted values and loyalty. This is something that I pull out from a family constitution for one of our family members that we work with, one of the families that we work with. And interestingly, this is in Indonesia. So for those that are in Indonesia, this is done in Indonesia. You will ask me, but those are Chinese words. Yes, they're Indonesian Chinese. Interestingly, I can share with you, over my years working with Chinese family in the region, the Thai Chinese, the Philippine Chinese, the Indonesian Chinese, I don't know, there tend to be more Chinese than us. I don't know about the Vietnamese Chinese, but I have not have the opportunity to work with the family there. But it seems to me that the Chinese in the region, to a certain extent, are more Chinese than us. These are some of their values they pick for their family constitution: loyalty, honesty, grace, and dream. Okay, I just want to share with you. Obviously, I think loyalty, honesty, grace, I think most of you probably know. Why dream? One of the things that the forefather was saying, that basically they want to create, this is a family business which define their family business as business for the family. They want the business to be able to fulfill the dreams of every single member of their future generation. That is their aim. That's why they sit together and decided that this is what I want to do for my family. Because to them, they realized that very long ago, they are into agriculture. Okay, I think they started out with agriculture, and thereafter they divert into farming, now today they own banking, they own IT company, they own shopping malls. They're doing different things, different aspects. So the analogy I remember talking to the patriarch was basically, he was telling me that basically, look, Raj, you know, when my grandfather started the business, their aim was only to survive. I mean, just imagine it was just a cow. Then they had one cow, and the cow can only give out white, pure, fresh milk. That's all they want, because it's just to feed the family. But they say over the years, they realized that as the children start to grow, and people don't want to have white milk, I want to have strawberry milk, I want to have chocolate milk, I want to have mango milk, I want to have different type of milk. So he realized that the one cow will not be able to provide what everybody wants to do. That's why part of their family values is to look at how do I fulfill everybody's dream. That's something that I want most of you guys, if you're in a family business and you have probably a number of siblings and cousins that you're going to work together in time to come, to understand the fact that not everybody is going to be aligned, not everybody is going to do the same thing you do or what you are doing today. That's something that you probably want to ponder about as we move along. Next, I think one of the key things we also realized that for a family business to be able to go beyond 1, 2, or 3 generations, the next generation transforming the business model is very important. Just like that little picture that I show you, you probably realize that it's a snail, but it doesn't look like a snail. No, it's a snail with legs. You know, basically it will run. You need to transform your business model. So for those that are in the first generation, I don't know how many of you guys are here in the first generation. Please, if you are passing your business on to your second generation, allow them to transform your business model, because it needs to evolve. The world has changed, and I'm going to share with you a lot more later on in terms of why the world has changed, and you need to change. And that is something that you need to look at and say, how do we continuously do what we do today, but with a twist? And the next generation will be the key people that will bring that forward. It is not easy, especially for the first generation, to be able to accept transformation of business model. Not easy at all. If we have a lot, I know Mark obviously is also a family business, working with the dad. It's not easy, obviously. I would like to ask him, in how he worked with the sister. They're part of something that we talk about later on. How do you work with a sibling? Those are the things that I want you to put on your back of your mind when you look at your own family business. When's the last time you guys sit down and say that, look, can we review our current business model? What is going to happen in the next 3-5 years? And COVID is a good time. And I talk about a lot about scenario planning and everything else during my previous webinar. But I think what I would like you to look at is for your own business to really consider how you're going to get this next generation to be involved. The way you do it in the last 30 years is good. But what about the next 30 years? Is it going to be the same old, same old? That's something that you need to ponder. Also, most of the good family business basically are acting as a force of good, meaning they're philanthropic, obviously, they're helping customer, they're helping employees. You know, a good family business not just focus on profit, they focus on philanthropic purposes, cost, they look at helping their customer, helping their supplier, they talk about helping employees, sorry. They're talking about helping their employee, especially in crisis like COVID. You're beginning to see a lot of companies are actually basically going out and do a lot of good things. Obviously, for the first frontliner, or the nurses, the doctors, you know. But we're seeing. I mean, on my Facebook, I'm seeing on a daily basis a lot of my F&B clients are giving away free food to the nurses in the respective hotels, respective hospital in Singapore. Those are what we call acting at the force of good. You know, basically doing good things. So, why is family business so special? I mean, I share with you in terms of the characteristic of some of the family business. I think this is where it gets interesting. I want to share with you some of the war stories that I work with in the region. So I'm not going to name you names because obviously it's sensitive. So I can tell you which family that I work with and where they come from. But I can share with you what are the key issues that we typically would have. Okay, for most of the family business, you probably will face all these problems. Okay. Whether you agree or not, but you probably realize that these are some of the problems that you probably will face in your own family business. Okay, things like willingness to let go, competency of the family member working in the family business, family concern, family interest, family control, formal process to resolve conflict, preparing and training a successor. Interesting. It could be something that perhaps some of you can share with me later on as well. How long you think it takes one to prepare and train a successor to take over the business? The research across the university around the world has shown close to 15 to 25 years. That is typically the timing. 15 to 25 years to train and prepare a successor. So if you are 70 today and you have not found a successor, you better start tomorrow because you have the next 15 to 25 years to make sure that you get it done. Okay, I can see Mark is smiling because obviously he understands what I'm talking about. Okay, I think the fundamental problem with family business is every family has problem. When I do this with a lot of university, I do this in Indonesia, I do this in Thailand. Everybody has a problem, but people always think that this problem is only unique to themselves. They always say, only I had problem with my dad, you know, nobody else had problem with their dad. Only I had problem with my uncle. I really cannot work with my uncle, you know, seriously, but because it's just me. And it comes to the conclusion that basically the family problem seems to be revolved around the individual. But you're wrong. Every family has a problem, and every family shares a common problem. And what is the common problem? The common problem is people. Obviously, in the view of time, there's many other conflicts that we can share about. I just want to focus on people conflict today. What is people conflicts? Family members. When I do as a family consultant for families, the first thing I normally get request from the son, from the second or the third generation, the son, the daughter, when they come to me and say, Roger, I need you to come to my family and help me with some of the conflict management and things like that. The first thing they normally ask me is, if this doesn't work, do you have somebody that I can employ to kill my dad or my uncle on the street? You know, very typical. I hear that a lot, and I see a lot of smiling face among you guys as well. I don't do that. I know my colleague does it. I'll give you the number of my colleague who has a number to a few serial killers that can help you to do the job. But I think the important thing here is everybody faces problem. What are the typical people conflict? Okay, first, the founder. That will be Ron, you are the founder. You know, these are the typical things that will happen to you when you start to pass on the business to your son or to your second generation. For those that are in the first generation, I can't see your face, but for those that are in the first generation, you have a love of what you created. This is your baby, right? This is your baby. You have built this from scratch, from nothing. You have gone through a lot of sweat, you've gone through a lot of blood, you've gone through a lot of tears to bring it to what it is today. So I'm not going to fault you by saying that you are irrelevant. You are very relevant. But I can tell you, all the second, third, fourth generation in the webinar today will tell me these are sometimes the problem. I can share with you. Most of the time, the founder come to me and say, Rog, come in and help me with succession planning. And most of the time, the succession planning problem we see with who? The founder. Because the founder refuses to let go. Most of the founder don't understand the meaning of letting go. Important thing, guys, and I want to share with every one of you, especially the second and third generation, the emerging generation, they are looking at getting your daddy or your mommy to step away. First thing first, you need to understand the word retirement. They need to retire from one thing into something else. They've been working on this for the last 60, 70 years of their time. They will die tomorrow if you tell them not to come to office. Agree? You probably have many cases where the patriarch is 80 years old or 90 years old. They're still coming to office. I'm working with one case, he was telling me he don't know what to do. He go to office on Saturday and Sunday because he says that he has nothing to do. He don't know what to do. He don't want to take care of grandchildren. He just want to play golf. But how many golf can you play? How many mahjong can you play? So you need to know, in order for your daddy or your mommy or your uncle or your auntie to retire, first thing, you need to find them something to retire into. So joke aside, and I always tell people, this is a joke, but I always tell people, if your daddy is having a mistress somewhere, it's a good thing because he is distracted. Okay, so he needs to retire from one thing into something else. That will be the first thing you need to look at. Second thing, founders. If I don't know how many founders are here, but founders, one of the key things we realize when we send our children for higher education, be it in your country or overseas, one of the things we want to do is make sure that they are better than us. One thing we want to make sure our son, I'm a parent myself, I'm a dad, one thing I want to do is make sure that my son is way smarter than me in time to come. I want the way that my son is way better than me. But when the crunch comes, most of the time, founders, we are not able to let go. We still want to continue to direct the direction of the business. Why? And what you probably also realize, especially for daddy's mommy, if you're daddy's mommy, you look at it, you have young children. When they were young, every little thing they did well, you give them applause and you say, well done, good job. As they grow older, their praise has come down significantly a lot lesser. Agree? You realize that? So one of the things I want to look at both sides of the equation, the founder and people working with the founder. You need to understand where they're coming from. Where is the point? Where is the sweet spot? No use getting your dad to retire. No use confronting your dad again and again. You're hitting a brick wall because you need to stand on their point of view and see. And founders, look at your emerging generation. They are supposed to be smarter than us. That is the reason why we spend all our money sending them overseas or doing higher education. You want them to be better than us. But are we able to let them make decisions? This is the hardest part of it. So most of the problem I have and most of the problem when I work with family business is the founder. They are the one that pay me a lot of money to come into the family. They are the one that I refuse to let go. They are the one that creating the problem. They are the one that make my job very difficult because they refuse to let go. So letting go is not easy. So letting go is an art. It's not just a science, but it's an art. Of course, for those emerging generation, if your dad already let go, very good. I think you should look at it and say you have a very understanding dad or mom that basically are willing to let you hands on and run. Okay, so these are the founders. So typical situation when founders, we talk about it, daddy and son, mommy and son. Interesting, it's always daddy and son. I've seen many kids of daddy and son. Sorry? It's always daddy and son. I realize it's always the classical example, daddy and son. Mommy and daughter, very interesting. If mommy is running the business, mommy and daughter always tend to have a problem. Son and mommy, to a certain extent, also works. But most of the typical cases are daddy and son, mommy and daughter. So those are the things that you want to look at. You might look at it and say, yeah, it happens to be. Daddy and daughter tends to work better. Don't know why. Maybe because it's mommy's boy, daddy's girl. But it seems to me most of the time, father and son lockheaded. Very hard to get a compromise because they're looking at the same creature they created. So for all those daddy with son, you look at your son, you realize that this is the same monster as the one that you look through at the mirror every morning. This is the same devil. It is you who is basically creating all this problem for yourself. So how do you get daddy and son to work together? That is an art. I have many cases that we work with that we have son that walk out of the business because they cannot take working with the dad. Okay, so that's something that you want to be aware of. Second thing, women in family business. Interestingly, women, and when I talk about women, they may or may not necessarily have to be in the business. Like for example, mommy. I always typically label mommy as the chief emotional officer. And you need to create the problem. And now many of the family business I work with revolve around how to get a mommy to be the one to tie everybody together. Very interesting. Why? Because mommy is always the CEO of the company in the family, which you call the chief emotional officer. And I have one case that we actually have to make the mommy sit at the head of the dining table. Why? Because she was telling me every day, all she hoped for is not money. All she hoped for is hope for the daughter, the son, and the father to sit down and have a proper meal without talking about business. It's all she hoped for. Okay? So what we have to do basically, at the end of the day, we create what we call a structure for them. But one of the things we do for them is at the head of the dining table is not the father, it's the mommy. The mommy will sit at the head of the dining table. Mommy's rule. So mommy come to the conclusion, realize one way of making sure that I can discipline every single one of the family member is through their stomach, because the mommy knows everybody's preference taste. So mommy says that if nobody's going to behave, I'm not going to cook your favorite dish for the dinner. So one of the things he realized that mommy play a very important role as well. I think important thing is also woman. Okay, sister. How do you work with your brother? And if your sister is the one that is helming the business, how you as a brother work with the sister? Those are difficult questions. And especially if you are the middle child. Okay, if you are the middle child, I don't know how many of you are middle child, but we always have the middle child syndrome. The middle child are always the one that's creating the most problem. But for the founders, if you have a middle child, let me tell you, 80 to 90% of the time when I work with family with middle child, they might be the most problematic. But let me tell you, when the crunch comes, when the family need help, he or she will be the first in line. The first one to say is, I will do everything for the family. It's a very interesting thing that I don't know whether you're familiar with this concept, but look at your middle child. If you are not the middle child, look at your middle sibling. They are the one that probably are most problematic, but they are the one most of the time when the crisis comes, they will stand behind you. So look around and how do you work with people like that? You also have a situation where you have an elder sister is running the business. I mean, I have a case in Singapore that we work with. Elder sister is running the business. The brothers are not very happy because he says that, but she's not a son. I'm the son. She's just a daughter. She's going to be married off. And why is she holding on to the business? Why is she helming the business? So those are the things that we normally talk to with a lot of our clients. Most of you already shared with me, but Raj, we need to put the best people in the job. This is a family business, my friend. It doesn't work like an MNC. It doesn't work like a normal company. If it works like a normal company, there will not be a definition called family business. It just be a company. Because it's a family business, emotion comes into play. In Asia, to a certain extent, you probably realize that it's still very much a very traditional approach. I'm not saying that this is right, but I'm just telling you that most of the time, the woman in the family has no right into the access to the wealth, to the business. For example, I have one client that I work with. They basically share with me, Raj, I will give share to all my son, but my daughter, I will not give her a single share for the business. But she's working in the business. Yeah, I know, but no, I'm not going to give her a share. But initially, when I listen to that, I think that he's biased. But after working with him a while, I realized why. The intention is very simple. The intention is he wants to make sure that he's protecting his daughter. Why? He wants to make sure that eventually when the daughter married anyone, that someone is marrying her because he really loves her, not because he has access to the wealth. And we're talking about quite a wealthy family here. He wants to make sure that, look, when my daughter get married, I'll buy her a house, I'll give her money when I die, but I will not give her any wealth in terms of shares, basically. So it's a very interesting concept. So women's role play a very important part. You know, women are also very emotional animals within the family. They are probably the key people that are able to hold everyone together. I want to share a very interesting thing. I normally will have a chance to talk to all the family members when I get involved with the family. One thing I stopped doing is to have coffee with pregnant women in Starbucks or in any of the coffee joint. The reason is because I did that in the early years. I have a discussion with the daughter who is pregnant, and he was sharing with me, obviously, sad story of the family, is the grievances that we have. Then he started crying. Then she started crying and profusely, and he couldn't stop. And everybody around in the Starbucks was looking at me as though I'm the one responsible for her stomach. And basically, I'm looking at why this guy making a pregnant woman cry. So I realized that over the years, I will not talk to pregnant women in the open. I will do that at home. I'll do that at their place. I do that at their office, but I will not never do that in the open ever again. So interesting. Okay. Second thing is also.
钟权啊，钟权可以开了，可以开了。
Sorry. Yeah. Second thing is also basically to look at the woman's role behind the scene as a business advisor, as a sounding board for the men. Is that something that a lot of women are doing? Obviously, you look at typical situation in Singapore. Obviously, our former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew's wife was a great sounding board. He doesn't come out to the open, but he's always the one behind the scene, acting as an advisor, giving sounding board to the founding father of Singapore. What role will you define if you are a woman today? What role will you define yourself in your family business? If you have a woman in the family business, men, how do we define their role? How do they want to define their role? That's something that you want to ponder about. Okay. So definition of women's role, obviously, I think we saw many successful cases. Obviously, Michelle Obama is one of the key successful women behind the man. Obviously, Nancy Reagan as well, the late Nancy Reagan of the late President Ronald Reagan. Basically, they are successful women. They're able to define their role in family business. Okay, next, the interesting one, in-laws. I just want to have a quick chat. I know it's hard for you guys to basically answer me, but how many of you have in-laws working in the business? I don't know. I mean, how many of you have in-laws working in a business? Key thing, in-laws sometimes I will define them as the outlaws. They are the problematic. How many of you allow in-laws to work in the family business? I don't know. I have many cases where in-laws are definitely bound and banned from the. Interesting. I have from somebody who wrote, my mother, is she considered in-law? Interestingly, mother is not. Mother is part of the family. I don't know why, but mother is part of the family. Okay, it's always related to son-in-law, daughter-in-law. We are currently handling a case in Indonesia. I know one of my friend, Pak Fajar is on the web, so I'm not going to tell you which family it is because he is an Indonesian. You probably will know. I have a family business in Indonesia. The first thing that appointed me and the mandate was to get my son-in-law out of the business, and he's willing to pay me a lot of money to do that. Just get my son-in-law out of the business. Interesting. in-laws sometimes are known as outlaws. Okay, and most of that case I realize is true. In-laws sometimes tends to have different in terms of, and you probably ask me why is this so? They're still human. They're still two hands, two eyes, 2 ears, one nose. Why are they so different? Values. Their values are different. Their values are different from the one you are brought up with. Their values is different from the one your brother and sister are familiar with, because they come from another family. They have different values. So how do the value clash? How do the values synchronize with one another? Okay. One of the things you also realize that most of the in-laws have no shares in the business. How do you get your in-laws to work with you? I share with you a case in Singapore I work with. Interestingly, he only had one son. So he basically wanted to do a family constitution, but he has about 3 grandchildren, because the son and the wife give birth to about 3 children. So he was thinking of setting up a family constitution, and he was telling me, Rog, I'd like you to talk to me, my son, my wife, but don't talk to my daughter-in-law, because it's not important. I don't want her to be involved because it's not important, because I don't want her to get involved. So I just asked him one question. I say, Mr. So-and-so, you are planning all this for who? Oh, I'm planning all this for my son and my grandson. Apparently with three grandsons that he has. I said, that's good, that's good. So you're basically passing everything that you have created, your values, to your grandson in time to come. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So question to him I asked is, who is cultivating the values of the grandson? Who? You or your daughter-in-law? So that's a question for you guys to think about, okay? If your daughter-in-law is the one that bringing up the 3 grandsons, cultivating day in, day out her values, what makes you think that whatever you pass to them in time to come, she is irrelevant? How do you know that? So that's something I want you to ponder as well. How do you get in-laws to come in and work? And for the particular case in Indonesia that I talked about, before we came into the business, he was under the suspicions of taking the business away, taking money from the business, having affair behind the daughter. When we come in, we talk to him, and over the time we work with him, there's nothing. Yeah, he's an arrogant guy, but there's nothing. There's no money taken out of the business. We are auditor, we are able to do forensic. There's no money taken out. There's no affair. There is nothing. Basically, there's nothing. But it's just because you are in-laws, how do you get yourself into the business? I think most of us, to a certain extent, are in-laws, right? We are in-laws. We are married to somebody. We are in-laws to somebody. How do we get people to accept the other half? Interestingly, because the expectation is high. Expectation is really high. It's not easy, especially if your family comes from a different caste system. You might say, Rog, there's no caste system in this part of the world. I beg to differ. Let me tell you, among the high net worth individual, there are caste system. Okay, that is the reason why if you look at Indonesia, it's always, to a certain extent, you need to marry the right family. Why is it important? So that you can continue to have the same values, lifestyle, and everything that you dream of. That is how it works in the part of the world. And it's same for in Thailand, it's same for in Philippines, it's same for in India, China. Even in China today, they're talking about that as well. Is what kind of status class are we talking about working together? And I have seen cases where they're married down or upwards. There has been a lot of difficulty, especially for the in-laws. For example, in-laws that marry into a rich in-law, marry into a richer in-law. The richer in-law tends to look at you and says that you are here for my money. There's always that difficulty that you face. So in-laws are people that are basically giving you something to ponder about in your family business. I have seen, that's why I just want to put on record, I have seen families with very good in-laws working together, creating values. I have seen in-laws creating havoc in the family business. So that's something that you guys need to look at and say, what can we do with our in-laws in the family? Okay, so I have this interesting quote. when you married, when you married, when you are married, you should not have to give up your families. Families are forever. Marriage are not always. If your partner can't get along with your families, it's not always your family's fault. Sometimes you pick the wrong partner. Okay, there's something for you to ponder about. I'm not saying it's right. Okay, I have a question here regarding Islamic law. Okay, yeah, it's interesting. I was just in Jakarta in January. I was working with a Chinese family. We were doing a family constitution for the Chinese family in Indonesia. So we were looking at the definition of family. Okay, since we are on this topic, the definition of family. How do you define family? It's for every one of you to think about what is a family. How do you define a family? So for this particular family, and I'll share with you, Fajar. For this particular family, in our family constitution, we state that the first wife will be the legal one. But then it was being challenged because obviously the Islamic law and to a certain extent the Indonesian national law says that if you have four wives, all four are legitimate family because under the Islamic law, I'm allowed to marry four women. So that is a big struggle. I have that struggle with them in January. Then after that, COVID comes along. I have not gotten a solution to that. But once COVID is over, when we are back in Jakarta working with them to clear this, I will let you know how do we go about doing that. But that was the concern raised. The concern raised was if my descendants in time to come married a Muslim. And I just want to throw the example to most of you. If you are familiar with the Muslim Islamic law, they are permitted to marry up to 4 people, shall obviously certain preconditions are being listed up. Okay, so I'll throw the question to Mark. I throw the question to all of you who has daughter, for example. If you have a daughter, let me tell you, what if in time to come your daughter decides to marry a Muslim gentleman, and when she married a Muslim gentleman, she happened to be the third wife. My question to you is, can you accept it? Another thing, when we talk about family, I never share with you what is family. I throw it to you. Family for most people means it must come out from my true blood, right? It must be from my offspring. Be it from my egg or from my sperm, it has to be from my family, right? Basically, that is what we call family. So if I were to give you a scenario, in time to come, your grandchildren comes to you and say, Grandpa, Grandma, I met this wonderful girl I love very much. Okay? And I want to marry this wonderful girl because he or she is the love of my life. But the good news for you, Grandma or Grandpa, is that the moment he or she is married into our family, you will instantly become a grandparents. He's going to bring along, or she's going to bring along, children from the previous marriage. Question to every single one of you out there. Would that be considered a family? Because what we are doing today, we are creating wealth. We're creating wealth for generation to enjoy. Be it your definition of family business is family in business or business for the family. Doesn't matter. You are creating wealth. You are preserving wealth for your family. Now, my question to you is, would that be a family? Don't know. That was the same question we have talking to everybody. Would that be a family? Would that be considered a family? Everybody will come to me with different things. Yeah, if they change their surname, they'll be considered a family. No, they will never be considered a family. How will you do that? What if I tell you many generations, I'm not going to say but now, but many generations down the road, your grandchildren comes to you and says, Grandpa or Grandma, I'm a guy. I try going out with all the ladies you introduced to me, but I really don't like ladies. I prefer a man. And I want to marry this wonderful gentleman that I met at the pub. You know, we want to be family. We want to adopt kids from Africa. Can this be a family? So that is something I want everybody to be able to ponder, because the part about family at the end of the day is the definition of family. What is a family? How do you define who has access? That is where always the big conflict is. Who has access to the company? Who has access to the wealth that is created by your forefather? These are the things that you need to clearly define so that people will not fight over it in time to come. Okay? I am really over time. I can see that now, but okay. I just want to quickly run through. Typically for family and business, it's always a conflict, and there's always the friction, and there's always that emotional attachment, because family are very much emotional based. Okay, it's very subconscious behavior. It's very inwards looking. It's all about minimizing change in the family. But whereas business is very task oriented, it's very conscious behavior, very outward looking, exploiting change. Interestingly, I want to share with you. For example, most of us, and me included, and I'm guilty of that, most of us are probably more willing to forgive an outsider than your own family member, especially when you get into a fight. Think about it. And it is a research done, and it's proven. Most of us are willing to forgive our co-worker. We are willing to forgive our friend. We're even willing to forgive people who cheated us. We are willing to forgive our business partner, but we are not willing to forgive our sibling, our dad, our uncle, our mother for things they've done to us. Interesting. Second thing, family is also very emotional based. For all the women, you've been hearing this all the time. Women are the most petty animal in the world. Agree? No. I can see some smile among you guys. Yes, no. Let me tell you, I worked in family business for the last 15 years. Men are the most petty animals in the world. Okay? I can tell you, women, when they get angry, they just explode. It's just like a volcano. They explode and it's over. Men don't get angry. Men get even. They stall. They keep. Okay? I talked to a guy that is 70 years old about his family. And he started crying and sharing with me stories that happened 45 years ago about his uncle, about his sibling, how is his grievances, how he's being mistreated by his older brother, older sister. Those are the things you need to be very wary of. So you're working with uncles, be careful, okay? Men remembers. Men don't forget. That is the thing that you want to talk about, okay? Interestingly, yes, Hillary, I agree. That is what we call a family constitution. Because Hillary was talking about they have their own family rules. Family rules are what we call family constitution. And interestingly, you agree with me. In Indonesia, a lot of them have it. In Singapore, you go around the family, most of them don't have it. I don't know why, but they just, no, it's not something I talk about. No, we don't want to talk about. But in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in Thai, very, very, very common. Okay, very common. Okay, just want to share with you this concept of family management and ownership. One of the reasons why most of the time we are in constant conflict is because we are in the number 7 arena, meaning we are family, we are also shareholder, we are also running the business. Okay, so it's very important if you were to get anything out of this webinar today, is basically to understand this concept of these 3 things. Where do your family members and your family's people fit into this? Nothing wrong with number 1. You have people that are fitting in number 1. Most of the mommy I know are in number 1. Most of the mommy are housewives. They stay at home. They just want to cook dinner. They just want to make sure that all the children come back together with the husband, have a proper meal. They are number 1. They're sitting there. They're not in the business. They don't own share. They don't know what's happening with the business. And most of the time you ask them, what do your business do? I don't know. I have no idea what my son and my husband are doing every day. But I know we have a big factory, we have a big office, we have 2,000 staff. But what do they exactly do? No idea. So depend very much on where are you in this equation. This is what we call a structure system. Where are you? You can be number 3. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you are a business for the family, in times to come, you have a situation where you could be in number 3. You just own the share, but you are not running the business because somebody else is running the business. Okay, Janet, yes, I understand completely. Mommy who has stuck between father and son. I always say, when I talk to mommy only have one wish. And most of the mommy only have one wish. Not getting a lot of money. They're not interested in that. They're only interested in making sure my son and my husband can sit down and have a proper meal without throwing chopstick at one another. That is what most of the mommy told me. And I kid you not. That is what they want. Because most of the time you realize the problem with family business is most of the time there's no distinguish between family and management. They can't distinguish between the different. When you're back home, when you're on the dining table, you probably realize that after every 2 sentences, the next thing that come out will be business related. That's what the mommy can never understand. The mommy will say that this is work. Why can't you just leave work at the office and bring it back? It's hard. It's just hard. Think about that. The fact most of you are in the family business. Can you actually resign? If I work for a company, I can resign tomorrow and I can walk out if I'm really not happy. But you can't. You really can't. For your family business, you probably can't. If you want to resign, the next thing you need to do is also move out of the house and also change your surname. It's a very complex process. For me, you just go to HR and hand in my letter. For you, you will go to HR, hand in a letter. You're going to tell your dad you're going to move out of the house. You're going to tell your dad you're going to change your surname because that is how it works. Yes, it's what we call a lifetime employment contract. Yes, Michelle, you're right. It is a lifetime employment contract. And you can't resign. It's scary. Yes, resignation now allowed. Not? No. Trust me. Even you're out of the business, he will treat you differently. It's a very interesting thing. It's not easy. Yes, I know. But of course, I have seen successful cases that get out of family business and start something else. That's why the concept of your definition of family business is very important. Is this a business for family? Meaning, in time to come, I might not need to work in what you have created. Can I do something else and continue to add value to the family wealth? That's a new definition that you need to look at. Because when we talk about family business, not necessarily everybody have to work in the same factory. It could be a situation, hey, you guys have been doing textile. I don't want to do textile. I want to do something else. I'm good at IT. My question to every single one of you is, how sure are you that in time to come, within your own family, you might have another Steve Jobs, a very brilliant 4th, 5th generation that basically could transform the world. And he doesn't want to do furniture. He said, I'm not interested in furniture. I want to do something else. Can I do something else? So you need to have that structure in place to allow people to explore. Remember, one of the things we talk about values, the one that I talked to you about dreams, that family allowed their family member to explore business outside because they know that it is only through diversification that the family can come together. As much as there's many theory and many books you can read on how do I work with your sibling. Siblings are siblings. You will bite off each other's head, whether you like it or not. That is sibling. And you think sibling is hard, think of that. But in time to come, your children will be working with the cousins of a different surname, of a different upbringing. That is even harder. And that's why in the early part of my presentation, we talk about a lot of business doesn't go beyond 3 generations. Why? Because the 3rd generation is already what we call the cousin consortium, where basically cousins of different upbringing, different values, coming together and try to get alignment. Not easy. Not easy. That's why, like Michelle, you're right, parental law. Oh, that's crazy, right? The parental law is even stronger than the MOM law in Singapore. It's even stronger. It's hard. It's not easy. That's why it's a very interesting thing that you need to look at. So you need to look at this particular table and look at it. Where do you fit in and how do you get out of the conflict? The conflict management part is always the hardest part. That's why I say in topic like family business, I can go on for a whole day. Normally when I do seminars or I do classes overseas, it's a whole day session because there's so many things to talk about. Now, basically things like a salary, how much you be paid as a family member. Some people say, as a family member, I should be paid more because I'm a family. It's my entitlement. So my question to you, working in a family business is an entitlement or is a privilege? The definition that you need to think of for your own. Okay. So the last part, Fajar, oh yes, family son failed in the business, father asked him to resign. Yes, of course. I think interestingly is how the father takes on the failure. I think like your case, I think to a certain extent, the father is trying to train the son to take on challenges and go on building up family able to do that. Let's say he's from Indonesia. I need to say Indonesian wealth to a certain extent very different from Singapore wealth. The level of degree of wealth is totally different because I work with Indonesia for a number of years and I know Singapore. I'm not saying that Singaporeans are poor. I'm not saying Singaporean family are poor, but sometimes from what I know, compare to that disposable wealth for the son or for the children to feel is a bit different. It's very, very different. Okay. Yes, Hillary, agree. In-laws must not join the family business. Very common. It's a very common thing. But I think that's where this slide will come into my play. Now, this is where I do. It's basically where I come in and work with people like you guys. It's not that you don't know what I'm talking about. It's just that you are not able to solve it because you are in the family. You are there. You have vested interest. It's very hard for you to convince your uncle, your auntie, your cousin, your dad and mom that this is the right way forward because there is vested interest. And I think that is where a lot of people normally will use what they call an external consultant to come in and help them to look at this because it is what it is. Because it's not easy to work with family. And when I start to work with family, one of the things I always tell family member is, I cannot get a dad to appoint me. I need the whole family to appoint me. Because no use getting the dad to appoint me if the rest of the people don't buy into this. This has to be a collective effort. It has to be something that says, look, I want us to come together and make sure it works. Yes, prenup is interesting. One of the things that a lot of people do, for those that are not from Indonesia, in Indonesia, prenup is mandatory. I think so, right? From what I know, most of my clients in Indonesia, they have prenuptial agreement. The challenge I have in Singapore is I would dare all the Singaporean guys and girls go and tell your boyfriend and girlfriend if you are not married that you need to sign a prenup before we get married. Let's see how far the marriage will bring you. Okay. It's a very interesting thing, I know, but in Indonesia, it's very common. Everybody sign a prenuptial agreement before they get married. In Singapore, you try getting your boyfriend and girlfriend to talk about prenup. Let's see how far your marriage, your relationship will grow. Yes, prenup is mandatory. Yes, it is in Indonesia. It's definitely mandatory in Indonesia, especially you are married foreigner. I know most of my Indonesians have this problem as well. Same thing in Philippines, pretty sure. It's like a slap. Yes, it is like a slap in the face. Pretty sure about that. So that's why I say you want to get a prenup, or there's a different agreement altogether. Okay, prenup, for those that are not familiar, meaning they talk about what is yours, what is mine before they get married. So that after if they go into a divorce, they know what is mine, what is yours. Which I don't know. It probably won't work. If I go to my room now and tell my wife that let's sign a prenup, I appreciate it, kick out of the family. Pretty soon I will be sleeping in the couch tonight. Okay, so I think that's where it is. Just the last few things. Why is there a need to change for family business? I think today we are looking at a fourth industrial revolution. You know, we are not the same old way should not be anymore because it has changed. Okay, and look at the exponential technology changes and uplift in many parts of the industry, be it furniture industry, be it anything that you are doing. All these are changing the way business are looking at the future. And then the global is globally more connected now. I mean, good old days, your dad is able to do that because your dad are only having competition in Indonesia. Your dad is only having competition in Philippines. Your dad don't have to compete with the world. They don't have to compete with Taobao. They don't have to compete with Tmall, you know. They don't have to compete with the online merchant. Today is a different ballgame altogether. I have a family business I work with in Indonesia. They do ceramic. For many years, there's no competition. It's closed. There's only a few competitors that they're working with one another. And basically, they're selling plates across the whole Indonesia. Until recently, China started coming with cheaper alternative. If you think Indonesian labor is cheap, China managed to do it cheaper. How? I don't know. But that is what it is. The world is connected, and it's definitely going to be very, 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 very serious. Oh, Hillary, don't do that to me. Ceramic, I confirm I know who. Okay, say I should talk about the industry as well. You know who. Okay. Okay. So I think with that I would like to probably end my hour-long or it's more than an hour. Sorry about that, but I think I could go on for a long time with a lot more stories about family. But I rather if there's any question on your mind, bring them here. Michelle, typically when I do seminar, it's better that you get your father and mother to come. You know why? I normally make the older generation sit one side, the younger generation sit one side. Then let them argue across the table. Because yeah, it's not easy. Like what Jack said, parents might not accept even they listen. It is true. Letting go is the key part. I think if there's another opportunity, I'd like to invite a lot of the second gen to come out and share their story as well. You know, it's not easy. I know that it is not easy. It's not easy to get your dad to give up. Like what I tell you, basically, your dad built this. This is his baby. He's not going to let it go. Most of our dad is going to bring this to their grave. They're gonna work till the day they die. Not saying that we want them to die tomorrow, but they're gonna work till the day they die. So it's very, very, very different. Okay. Maybe what I can do is basically throw out the time for any question that you might have, so I can answer them. You don't have to. I mean, I'm not going to read out your name, but you just throw up your question that you might have in regards to family business that I can answer for you.
Right. Maybe while Roger is actually taking a water break, I think this is really one of the most engaging webinar sessions that I've actually heard from Roger giving. But nevertheless, I think this is a very close topic that a lot of us actually hold very close to our heart. Maybe sometimes not by not by any decision or by choice as well. So, but perhaps maybe Mark, would you like to actually chip in on what you have on your mind right now after Roger's engaging presentation, before we go back to some of the questions that we may see coming?
Nothing on my mind now.
Maybe
a lot of thoughts actually.
With that.
Agree a lot with what Roger said. I think a very difficult part is how to also separate family time and business time. Especially if you live together with your family, that's everyone's in the business. Then when are you family and when are you colleagues? I think this separation is difficult, and I think it's easy. Maybe it's easier in theory than in a practical world. So we always say that more communication is needed and all that, but it's not always easy, because sometimes, like Roger said, emotion gets the better of you sometimes when you're talking as a family rather than as colleagues. And then after work, you are together again. You are together 24 hours a day. So the dynamics are very, very interesting, and sometimes it can be difficult to overcome some kinds of these kind of emotional challenges between family members. Yeah. For me, the whole family's in the business. All five of them, my mother, my father, and my two sisters. Yeah. So we are quite an extreme case. But no in-laws, no uncles, no aunties, and all that. There were in the past, and similarly, there were problems. Yeah. But now it's all good.
But I think the key thing is most of us need to think of not just our current generation, but also our generation to come, especially those of us with kids that eventually may or may not get into the business. Like what I always say, that's why the definition I get you guys to look at to a certain extent is when you look at your family business, if you look at your family business as business for the family, so in time to come, there will be a situation where everybody will be setting up their own business, but they're contributing back still to the family. How do you get the structure to do that? And I mean, looking at the fact that you probably need to realize that not everybody wants to be in a business as well. As much as most of the time, when we talk to people, I share with you, I talked to Mr. Ang of Jumbo, and I asked him, he's a listed company. He runs a very successful seafood restaurant. For those that are from Singapore and Vietnam, to a certain extent, Jumbo is there now. You're very familiar. When I asked them, is your kids going to be in? He said, no way, I don't want my kids to be inside there. I mean, I just don't want my kids to be inside there. But my question to you is, you might not want your kids to be inside there, but your kids might want to be inside there. So how? So how do you set the structure to allow them to come in? How do you train? How do you train your second generation? That is another topic altogether. But your education for your next gen is an important part. The reason why most of us are in this situation where we're fighting with our father, I mean, like you put it to me, I can't work with my father. I'm an expert in family business with all the families I know, but I cannot work with my dad. I will kill him. I would have killed him. I know that myself. So basically, we have that conflict, and I decided many years ago I cannot work with him. But over the years, I'm probably beginning to realize why is he like that then. But obviously, it's too late for me. I have my own career. I don't want to go back there anymore. But those are the things that you want to look at is are we preparing our next generation to be ready to come in and look at the business, to even explore the idea that maybe I can contribute. Nothing wrong with getting your next generation to come into business. You need to make sure that you have enough education for them so they know what they're getting themselves into. I think that's the key part.
Right. Thank you so much again, Roger. As much as I would also like to actually extend this webinar, we've actually gone past the 1 hour mark. In fact, we're actually into our one and a half hours already. Maybe I could just open up one last chance for everyone to actually ask Roger or even actually make a comment on the chat group. I see that it's actually very active inside here. That everybody has a lot of feedback and comments. But before Roger starts charging you guys for his expert advice, I think you all better ask more questions before I actually end this session itself. So please do fire away. We'll give it about another half a minute or 1 minute more before I actually end this session. But once again, we really have to actually thank Roger for his expert advice and his experience in the business. We also like to actually thank Mr. Mark Yong for his presence as well for today's meeting. So, I think that everybody actually has made their piece ready. I don't see any more comments coming up. But again, nevertheless, SFIC is here. If you actually do need any burning questions answered or raised, please do let us know. We'll be more than happy to actually pass it along or even share it with the rest of the group and see where it goes with that. All right, but today is a Friday, TGIF, but everybody's staying at home. Please do that. All right, and we hope everyone has a good weekend. Stay well, stay safe. Thank you very much.
I think there's one last question, is it, over there?
It was actually more of a statement. It's very difficult to ask our parents to change.
Yes. I think my last bit is basically don't try to change your parents, because most of the time when as much as we think our parents is wrong and we don't like the way they do things, come and reflect upon it. As we grow older, we become more and more like our parents. That's something for you to ponder. Especially daughters, I can see a lot of smile there. Especially daughters. I used to have the case where my sister used to fight with my mother on a daily basis before she got married. After she got married, over the years, I realized that she is like my mom, exactly like my mom. She's more and more like my mom. It's probably the same thing for us as guys as well. So don't try to change our parents, don't, because the reason we have conflict is because we are too similar. Think about the fact that because we are very similar, that's why we are fighting. It's not because we are not similar, because we are very similar in terms of characteristics. If he is stubborn, you're equally stubborn. That's why you're picking a fight with him. So think about that. From the emotion point, you perhaps be able to start a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, maybe you can get someone more enlightened than your father to talk to your father. That's another way to do it.
There's always the other way.
Like a mentor of his or a good friend of his that has already decided how to let go, and maybe sometimes getting that kind of an outsider to talk to your father, or your mother, or your auntie or your uncle, that might work better than you talking to them.
It is true. So last question on Andrew. Andrew talking about wanting to let go is not easy. Is it a confident level? I can tell you that most people will not let go. The word let go is not, the definition of let go is not the same as what you think. They will never let it go completely. So you need to sit down with him and define what you mean by let go. Maybe out of 10 items, you can look at 7 items that he can let go and not all. No way he will let go everything. Trust me, no way. Okay, we can go on for hours on this, but if any one of you wants to talk to me, just talk to SFIC. I think Christopher has my email. I'm happy to to have a quick chat if you have any issue regarding your family, and I probably can share with you in terms of what other people are doing. So hopefully you can use that as a benchmark to decide what is the best for you. Okay.
All right. Thank you again, Roger.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we also like to extend our thanks to all who's actually joined in for today's session as well. Thank you so much for your time and your sharing as well. All right. So once again, have a good weekend. Stay safe, stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Enjoy your weekend.